The Martin Daniels Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Dead air.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dead Air Podcast. I'm Nick,
And I'm pushing the boundaries of this thing called my life.
and that is Rob. This week's podcast is a bit special. We don't have any film reviews, we don't have any technology news, we don't even have any regular news. What we do have is an interview with a very special person. Rob?
Martin Daniels. It's taken us a while to get him on the show, but now we've got him on the show, we just couldn't get rid of him. An hour and a half we were on the phone with him. I've had to do loads of editing.
It's true. He did have a tendency to talk a lot.
All interesting stuff, though.
Absolutely. That's the problem we were faced with this week's podcast. Do we cut Martin Daniels down to allow room for other stuff, or do we leave all the Martin Daniels stuff in? Well, we've made the decision to leave the Martin Daniels stuff in and leave the other stuff out. We hope it's the right decision, and we'd like you to now listen and enjoy our interview with Mr. Martin Daniels.
Dead Air Podcast, all the latest news and a little bit of fun on the Dead Air Podcast with Nick and Rob, yeah.
Hello.
Hello, is that Martin?
Yes.
Hi, it's Nick from the Dead Air Podcast.
How are you doing?
Very well, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
It's a great pleasure to talk to you.
And well, it's at last.
At last. I've got Rob here with me. I will let him say hello as well.
Hi, Martin.
Hey Rob, how you doing, man?
Not too bad.
Good.
I remember you way back from when you were doing stuff with your dad on the Paul Daniels show, because obviously we're both fans of Paul Daniels, obviously, and we're both fans of the show. So that's where we first knew you from, and
right.
That's really how I sort of got to know you, and then of course you went on and did the Game for a Laugh, didn't you? Which is the other thing that we've seen you in. But yeah, Rob, help me out here. I'm
Right, so we start the interview from here then, shall we?
Well, I don't know.
Why not?
Why
not?
Aren't we interviewing him now?
Well, you know.
Have we not started?
We've started.
We are recording.
Oh,
We are recording.
Everything.
that's fine. Yeah.
Let's
But
fire a few questions.
The thing is, we're nervous you see, because you're famous, and we get nervous when we talk to famous people.
I'm not famous. I was once for a very short while, but I'm not. To be famous, it's different now, isn't it? Fame is a strange thing. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It seems. When I first started as a performer, the thought of telly was way off, way in the distance. I mean, I started very young. I mean, I was 15 when I started working backstage, learning my craft, and stupidly thinking, oh, I'll learn my apprenticeship. And then at 17, I became a stand-up performer in my own right. And at the time, I was thinking, well, maybe if I can carry on working regularly, then once I hit the age of about 30, then I will start to approach TV people and try to see if I can get in and get on, as it were. And then I was doing summer season in Blackpool at the North Pier, and I always count summers. I can always remember my birthday's in August, so thinking about summer seasons, I always think of, how old was I then, and then I can remember the date. So I had my 21st birthday in Blackpool, and it was during that season that I was seen by the people from then London Weekend Television, and was offered a Game for a Laugh, which obviously I would have been mad to turn down. But it wasn't really on the horizon for things at all. I thought it was going to take a lot longer than that before I was established, if you like, on television. And so, at the age of 21,
Wow.
I had my first series.
That's amazing.
And that was back in the day when we're talking about 17 million viewers every Saturday night. Which is
That's
bigger. To put it into comparison, is sort of bigger than Britain's Got Talent final, or more viewers than the X Factor final.
Yeah, it's all diluted now, isn't it? There's too many channels and things. So,
But it's part and parcel of the way things have gone, yeah. But, yeah, that lasted. And while that was on, I was, if you like, famous. But it's amazing how quick. I found it quite a shock. It was about 3 or 4 weeks into Game for a Laugh that it was quite difficult to walk down the street.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, you really couldn't get very far at all.
What would happen?
And then,
would people come and stop you and talk to you, or would they just point and describe what happens when you become that famous?
Well, it's fame in different ways, isn't it? Because I was 21 and young and blonde and beautiful, I got a different kind of attention. I think I was the first sort of young presenter on television, because up until then, people who presented children's programs, your Blue Peters and such like, they looked like school teachers, rather than students.
Yeah.
And so it was the same sort of attention. I was getting the same sort of attention then as I guess a pop star would. It sounds ridiculous to talk about it now, but I literally had teenage girls fainting and screaming, and gangs of them chasing me down the street and things like that. Where are they now? But no, that was the kind of attention it was getting. The first big live show I did after Game for a Laugh had gone out was myself and Lenny Henry did a tour, because Lenny and I, we'd done the summer season in Blackpool. Yeah. Became good pals, and we decided that we'd do this tour together just so we could have a laugh and mess about. I just remember the first night going out on stage. Lenny was in the wings on his knees, crying with laughter, because you tend to do that when you're seeing a fellow artist struggle. But I was out there trying to tell jokes and be funny, and the audience, there was a lot of, again, this sort of teeny bopper age group that was sort of screaming at me, which is one thing if you're singing a song, but if you're talking and trying to be funny and tell a joke and there's people screaming at you every 30 seconds, it really plays havoc with the timing.
What's the craziest thing you ever did on Game for a Laugh then?
Oh, gosh. It was more... I hate to take the blame for this, but I think Game for a Laugh was the start of what nowadays is called people shows. Game for a Laugh was dubbed the show where the people are the stars.
Yeah.
But what people tend to forget is there was professional presenters and a very professional, hard-working production team behind the scenes that would spend hours, days working things out, looking at angles, what might happen here. If this happens, then we're going to head in that direction and try to plan for that. Or if this happens, we're going to be going in this direction. And sadly, what's happened now is they've cut out the professional production team, and they've cut out presenters that can, fill the gap, make it entertaining on a dead bit. And now they just point the cameras at the people and let them go. And I think that we're sadly lacking. We're missing something now. Mm. But crazy. I think my favourite one. I was actually, oddly enough, I interviewed Jeremy Beadle about 3 or 4 weeks before he passed away, and we were talking about this, and he asked me about my favourite stunt. It was, we found a guy as a stuntman who, they've done it many times. I think it was first seen in a James Bond film, where they drive a car up a ramp and then they drive it on 2 wheels. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we found a guy that could do that with an articulated lorry. Wow. And so we set up the cameras in there, and we got a guy who was an inspector, a mechanic, lorry inspector, that was always... This is the thing with Game for a Laugh. These people were nominated because they were usually always pulling pranks on other people, and they somehow wanted, to get their own back, for want of a better word, yeah. So we got this guy strapped in the lorry, and it was timed perfectly, because just as our lorry set off, there was 2 other lorries in front, facing opposite directions. And as the lorry went towards them, they parted to reveal the ramp. So the guy couldn't see the ramp until literally maybe 4-5 seconds before the truck hit it. And then up it went on its side. And it's just the shots from inside with this guy. He is hanging on. He is terrified. The beat machine was in override.
Yeah.
And he got out. He was absolutely shaking like a leaf. And it was just he took it so well because there were so many people at this place where he worked that were sort of hiding. And then when we came out with the cameras and a whole horde of people who were waiting to get revenge on this guy, it was just really, it was good. It was funny. And it was nice.
What was it like working with Jeremy Beadle?
Jeremy was very clever man indeed. He gave me the best piece of advice for working in television. Because don't forget, Game for a Laugh had already been on for a couple of years.
Yeah.
With the original lineup of Jeremy Beadle, Matthew Kelly, Henry Kelly, and Sarah Kennedy.
Yeah.
And then they decided, right, we're not doing any more, and they took it off air. And then some years later, somebody at the studio said we should bring it back. Jeremy was the only original member that stayed. So now this was Jeremy's baby as well. I mean, he'd come up with the concept because they'd already done a pilot at the BBC, which they called Gotcha, which then became. Noel Edmonds picked up the title Gotcha. They did title the BBC. The BBC turned it down, and he took it to ITV. So this was very much his baby, and he presented it, and it had become quite popular. So then, for him to accept 3 new faces was quite magnanimous on his part. And he really did welcome us with open arms. But the best piece of advice, and I would pass it on to anybody working in television now, when you're in the studio, when you're not busy, everybody else is. And that means, let them get on with stuff. I see a lot of people in the studios who are, as I say, they're not busy. And they start walking, messing about in rehearsals, walking into the back of a shot, sweeping up, pulling faces at the camera, and it's just leave it alone, let people get on with the job, and then do your funnies on the night.
What happens if let's say the victim decided that they didn't want to participate in the program after you'd gone to all the trouble and you'd done all the stunt and everything? Did that ever happen?
If that happened, what you do in television, if you film, you can't put somebody on air like that without them agreeing to it. That situation, it never happened. In the years of doing it, not once did anybody say, "Oh no, I'm not signing that. I don't want that to be shown."
Oh wow!
So but I mean, if that had been the case, the whole thing would have been scrapped, and we would have been unable to broadcast it.
Okay.
We did another one with a guy with a car, and it was a stuntman, a guy called Rocky, who was quite a famous stuntman, because they were filming Dempsey and Makepeace at the time, and he just bought a new car, and this was his pride and joy. So I mean, you have to do something that people care about, otherwise they'll just go, "Oh well, I'm not bothered anyway," and the whole thing falls flat. It's like when we landed an alien. We landed a UFO spaceship in somebody's back garden. One is you can only do that. You need a keen gardener to start with, somebody who's put a lot of work and effort into the garden. So they're thinking, first reaction is, my God, what's that in the garden? But then I know I'm going off track here, but the alien one took us in a completely different direction, because it was a lady who was, as I say, a mad keen gardener, beautiful garden, and we built this a spaceship and landed it in her back garden. All she heard was noise and saw lights and smoke. Now she didn't run out going, "Oh my God, this alien craft has crushed me flowers." She went outside and she started talking to the spaceship.
I remember it now.
Oh wow!
And because the the alien. We had the door opened, and there was lots of smoke, so you couldn't see too closely the alien there, and it was beautiful because as the alien came out, if this was you and a spaceship landed in your garden and the door opened and an alien is approaching the door, what would your first words be?
I wouldn't say anything. I'd just run.
Her first words, she said, "Would you like a cup of tea?"
Yeah, I remember.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So British as well.
Yes, I mean, God, blimey. If he'd done it in the States, they'd probably been running for the shotgun.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
would you like a cup of tea? It was priceless.
Now, you've also worked on your own show, the Lingo quiz show.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Probably somebody was unavailable. I just got a call saying it was the Thames Television. I seem to have made a career of closing down television stations that no longer exist. It was just my management company at the time said, "Can you go to Thames Television for a meeting?" And I said, "Right, yeah, what's it about?" They've said they'd rather explain everything when you get there. Went and they and that was Lingo, which I feel a bit peeved about Lingo actually because we did the show. Now Lingo, the concept of it, because it only ran for one series. Lingo, it's a mixture of language and bingo.
Yeah.
And we did that, and quite unheard of for a game show. First series, usually a game show, your series goes out. It's series 2 before people discover it, and it starts to climb up the ratings. Season 3, hopefully, you're doing well. But Lingo, and on the first series, we made it into the top 10.
Wow.
And it was actually number 2 in the game show chart. They separate it and put all the game shows together. And as I say, it was number 2 in the game show chart. There was a show called Every Second Counts that was number 4. Can't remember who did that.
That was horrible, that show. No, it's very good.
So we did that, and the producer director were calling me, saying, "Oh, this is unheard of. The ratings we're through the roof on this. We're going to make some changes for the second series. Slight changes. We're going to modify it a little bit, and this, that, and the other." And so great. We start recording in May. Fabulous. And then April came, and come into Thames Television. I went to see the boss, and he said, "We're not going to do another series."
Wow.
What? It's nothing to do with you. The show's been, you were fine. The show was good. The ratings were good. It's just that the heads of department have changed, and the new people coming in, they want to put, we need to make room for their ideas. So it's just a case of last in, first out.
Blimey.
And this was purely down to, new broom coming in, who was like, well, I've got these ideas and I want to make my stamp. Because otherwise, if they don't do something quickly, they feel like they're not justifying their jobs and the paychecks. And so they need to bring their hit straight away. And again, sadly, that was Thames. And the new shows that they brought in didn't really hit the spot with the people, and sadly lost its franchise. I'm not saying that's down to me, of course.
No. But I wanted to just talk for a second about the fame thing, because in the beginning I said that you were famous, and you said that you're not famous anymore. But I think that there's a different kind of fame that we don't really see now, which is this the longevity of someone who's famous. It seems to it just doesn't seem to happen. People of your generation, I think people know who you are even now. If we ask someone, they would know who you were. But I don't think that's going to happen with the people who are on television now. They seem to be very, very short-lived. They're famous for sort of a year and then you never hear of them again. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah.
It's a different kind of fame. It's like they're trying to pack more in, and you don't get that same kind of longevity that you used to get.
Well, if I'm honest, I think once I got myself a series, once I'd done, 3 or 4 series, I thought, oh, this is it now. I'm here. I've got my feet under the table. I'm established, and that was it. But it's this sort of X Factor syndrome, isn't it? Where the person wins, you're not allowed to see them for 12 months, so that they can release their new single when the next X Factor has started, when everybody's talking about it again, and then they get one. By definition, they get one hit out of it, majority of the time. And then it's like, the king is dead, long live the king, move over, there's somebody else coming along. But the ones who've done best out of the show are the ones who didn't win.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't just happen with talent shows like that. Even with your sort of standard TV programs that have presenters, they just seem to come and go very quickly, and they don't stay around very long. Now, when you've sort of gone from being super famous and being followed around on the street by teenage girls, and then it's kind of, waned as time's gone on. What kind of effect does that have on someone when did a day come when you were walking down the street and you thought, oh, I'm not famous anymore? Or do you know what I mean? Do you still get recognized now? What kind of impact does that have on someone on a personal level?
Well, I noticed it very early because, as I was saying, Game for a Laugh went out about 3 or 4 programs into it. The recognition starts, and then it builds. Then it compounds week on week as your program is on air. And then what's strange is probably the show will finish, and you're not on TV every week. You're not, slapping people around the face. And within 2 months of the show finishing, it's gone back to like the beginning of the show, where the hysteria's gone, and you're into the people elbowing each other and pointing and whispering. And then a couple of months goes by, the next series starts, and wallop, it's off again, Wow. It's odd that if you're not on every week, they'll go, I know you from somewhere, don't I? But if you've just been on, within the last couple of days, they'll oh yes, I know where I know you from now. Otherwise, you get people coming up saying, do you live near so-and-so? Do you go drinking in the Rose and Crown? I've seen your face somewhere. They know it, but they don't know where from.
Do people ever just say hello to you because they think that they know who you are, so that they think, oh, I better say hello to him because I know him, when in fact you don't know them? Does that ever happen to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it might be me forgetting, but sometimes you can, walk along, and what is a stranger to me will just say, hello, Martin, and I'll say, hello, how are you? All right. And I'm thinking, now, what's happened there? Have they recognised me, or have I just forgotten them?
Yeah.
And so just in case it's the latter, I'll hello, how are you? How's it going? And on my way. But
you still must get recognised now, though, surely?
Because
you haven't really changed much, to be honest with you. You don't look very different.
His long hair's gone.
Yeah.
The long hair's gone.
But do you still get recognised?
Occasionally, yeah.
I mean, you were on television not so long ago because you did the Penn and Teller show.
Yeah.
And you must...
I mean, usually, more often than not, it's an interesting thing I used to do when I was doing a radio show, when I was interviewing celebs. I would always ask them, what do people shout in the street?
Yeah.
Because it's always different. Majority of me now, I get, how's your dad? And now and sometimes I used to get not a lot.
Yes.
And I remember going to my dad saying, look, this isn't fair. You've created this catchphrase, And from the catchphrase, you got the fame and the recognition, the work, the money, and everything else that goes with it. All I'm getting is the downside. I'm getting the people shouting, "Lots a lot" in the street. I said, I'm reaping no benefits from this. And he said, well, he said, don't worry about that. He said, sometimes when he walks down the street, people shout, "Not like that, like that."
Because they think he's Tommy Cooper.
I don't get it, but
But having someone like him as your dad must have had an effect on your career choice, surely. Because do you think that you still would have been a stand-up and gone down that route if your dad hadn't come from an entertainment background himself?
yes.
Oh, you still would have?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I'm the middle one of three boys,
Yeah.
and I suppose if it was one of these sort of inevitabilities, your path is mapped out for you. Chances are then it probably would have been my older brother that would have followed down that line.
Is that Paul?
It's usually, yeah.
Because we've actually met him.
He doesn't say a lot, does he?
No, he's a very quiet man. I don't mean it like that. I don't mean, were you following in your father's footsteps? What I'm asking you is, if your dad hadn't been from that industry, would you still have gone into it yourself?
From the magic industry.
From the entertainment industry?
Yes, I believe so. It was something. My mum and dad parted when I was 5, coming up 5, and then communications back then weren't as they are now. We didn't have a telephone. Dad was constantly moving about. He wasn't famous. He was working clubs, the social clubs, doing sort of little summer seasons off the beaten track, Channel Islands and that sort of thing. And so I didn't really see an awful lot of him, and didn't have an awful lot of contact. Occasionally, I say if he was doing a summer season, or if he was going to be doing a week or 2 weeks at one of the bigger clubs of the day, then I could write him a letter.
Wow.
But we're talking about a boy between the age of 5 and 15, are not really great letter writers. Occasionally, if Dad was sort of heading up north and passing by, he would detour and call in, usually unannounced, or certainly from my point of view. I would get home from school maybe, and he'd be there, a couple of hours, and then he'd have to disappear, go off to the club or whatever he was. It was, and then literally months would pass before I would, maybe get an afternoon with him again. And so I don't believe that there was a massive influence there at that time. When I was 10, myself and my older brother, so as we were deemed old enough to look after ourselves, we went to Jersey for a couple of weeks, which was a terrifying experience at that age, because it was sort of 72, 73. Nobody was into international travel. I was 9 because my birthday was just coming up. My brother's 3 years older than me, so we were 9 and 12. And my mum put us on an aeroplane at Teesside Airport, and my dad was waiting at Jersey, which I say was a terrifying experience for a young boy, saying goodbye to his mum and going forth and meeting a dad who he hadn't really spent much time with for 5 years.
Wow.
And we spent, for 2 or 3 weeks of the summer holidays there, going to the show of an evening with Dad. Either sitting at the back and watching the show most nights, because it wasn't a theatre, it was a cabaret situation, so there wasn't much of a backstage environment. But sort of the difference between myself and my brother would be off. It was in a hotel, so he would go off and hang around with the other kids around the pool of an evening, table tennis and that sort of thing. And I was just glued to the stage every night, just watching either from the side or from the back of the venue. That's all I wanted to do, was just watch the show. And so I think that was, and I cannot remember a time when I didn't want to be in show business. I'm not quite sure that back then that I knew what I was going to do. I just knew this is the job I want to do. I don't know whether I'm going to be acting, singing, dancing, magicking, joking, or what. But I just wanted an in somewhere. Yeah.
Can you remember your first gig? Can you remember the first time you went in front of an audience?
Oh yeah.
What were you doing?
It was a summer season in Newquay in Cornwall.
You doing stand up?
No, it was mostly magic then.
Right.
And thankfully, I only had to do a 20-minute set. And so it started out with. See, I sort of like a lot of people, a lot of comedians. A lot of people started out doing something else.
Yeah.
Nowadays it's different. You've got the comedy clubs, and you can do 5 minutes and build up then. But comedy clubs weren't in existence. So there's Russ Abbott was a drummer.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He was the Black Abbotts were a group doing covers of popular songs, and then started doing comedy and mucking about. The Grumbleweeds were a band, and between songs started doing comedy and voices, impressions and things, and took over. And they used to call them show bands, didn't they, back then? Mm. But I was doing. So my first 20-minute act, as it were, started with me doing magic, but not talking.
Right.
Because I thought that give myself, it was a couple of tricks, and then while the music played, that was sort of 5 minutes, if you like. And then I'd step forward. Oh, thank you very much. Here's another trick, and I would talk my way through a couple of tricks for 10 minutes, and then it finished off with another. The term is silent magic, but again, music playing. And to make it a little bit different from the beginning, what I did was I had the singer from the show, the lady singist, and so the curtains opened, and she was sitting on a stool, and she sang the song, and I stood next to her, and did some magic.
And was that it? I mean, did you get the buzz, the sort of the audience buzz, and think, oh, this is it? Or did you start having second thoughts, or what?
No, because in that little sort of 10-minute section in the middle, I'd always been a comedy buff. I love all the old stuff. I've got reams and reams of videos, DVDs from old variety days, Laurel and Hardy, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and I've got books and books on these people. So I'd always loved the comedy aspect. Now, thankfully, the show, it was in one place, in just one little theatre in Newquay for 18 weeks, I believe. So it was 6 nights a week, and so I was able to, night after night, feel comfortable within that. The one thing I do remember about the very first show was that feeling of calm on stage. As I finished me magic with the music playing, and I stepped forward and grabbed the microphone. I had some family in the front row, my grandparents, my dad's mum and dad, and I think my dad's manager, some people from his management were there, and I think I remember, as I stepped forward and took a bow, from what I'd just done. As I was bent down, it was only a little venue. I was sort of in their faces. And I think I just looked at them and smiled and said, "Relax, it's okay." They looked quite nervous, and I just felt, hey, I feel totally calm, totally at ease, and that was it. So what happened there was, as the season went on, that 10-minute bit, instead of going straight to a trick, as my confidence grew, the odd funny line was coming out, and even jokes would creep in. And then again, as the weeks went past, the company manager, the man who's in charge of the show, came to me and he said, "Look, you're developing very well. We're pleased about that. It's just that you're supposed to be doing 20 minutes, and you're with the jokes you've added and one thing and another, it's crept up. You're doing 25 minutes." He said, "So can you pull it back to 20 again, because we're messing up the timings on the show." And so I had a little think about what I was going to do with it, and I decided to take a trick out so that the comedy bits could stay, and that was the beginning of it, really. And as time went on, the tricks got less and the comedy got longer.
So you definitely class yourself more of a comedian now than a magician.
Yes, I'm a comedian that does magic.
That does magic.
Yeah, I mean, in my sort of standard 1 hour set, if you like, I only do 2 tricks.
Getting on and getting off.
So getting paid for it.
What do you think of the modern magicians like the David Blaine and the Dynamos? These kind of street magicians. What's your take on that?
Well, I think it's a good idea. I mean, I did when I was doing, what was it now? The Laughter Show, Les Dennis for the BBC. On one series, the producer came. He said, I've had an idea. He said, we're going to combine two skills of yours. He said, one, we're going to take what you did on Game for a Laugh, out in the street, stopping people and doing stuff, and the magic. And so we went out. We went on the street and filmed a whole day of me doing the same trick over and over and over again. And then the next day we did a different trick over and over again, until we had enough material for the series.
So hang on, when was this?
This was early 90s.
So you were the first street magician?
Yes.
Wow, that's an exclusive for the Dead Air podcast. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on. What happened?
So we did that, and then somebody high up in the BBC said, "Oh, we don't like this. It looks it looks cheap and common. He's just out in the street stopping people and doing tricks on them. We don't want any more, thank you." And so I didn't do any more. And then I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years later, somebody came on television with this brand new concept of street magic. And I did have a little chuckle to myself, yeah. But that's how it came about, was the two, Game for a Laugh and the fact that I'd presented Game for a Laugh and the fact that I could do magic. And that's where the idea came from.
You've also been involved in a lot of writing for TV shows, probably the comedy behind it.
Yes, I've done a bit. But I started out doing Every Second Counts, my dad's quiz show. But that was only because I think one day my dad had rung me up saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" Nothing. "Oh, do you want to meet for lunch? I'm in the studio today. Why don't you come down?" And he was doing Every Second Counts. And of course, with that, the contestants, somebody's talked to them. One of the researchers talks to them weeks beforehand, and puts together a little sort of 2-page biography on them, and about what they do and what their hobbies are, or things like that. And I was just sat there bored, waiting for my dad, and I'd read through one of the biographies, and I'd scribbled some notes in the margin. And my dad was saying, what's that? And I said, oh, look, tonight, when you're chatting to the person, when they say that this is their job, how about this joke to underline it, and there's this to go with that, and that to go with that. And so he said, yeah, right, hang on a minute. He called in the writer and the producer, and we sat down and did it. And then the writer said, oh, hang on, give him the other biographies as well. And the questions and anything else we can go through. And so did it, and they recorded the stuff. And then I said, oh, do you want me to pop in next week then, when you're doing it, and we'll have a read through and a laugh and a giggle, and we'll add some comedy into it. Fabulous. Did it. And then again, I was going to go in the following week, and it was my dad, bless him, who'd said, hang on a minute, said to the producer, he said, if he's coming in every week to do this, why don't we pay him? We should be paying him. So I think at the time I was doing little clubs and bits and pieces. I think they gave me the equivalent of what I would have earned that night appearing in a club. I got for adding the material.
I had a chat with your dad when he was doing a show for us a few months ago, and one of the things he told me was that he does the trick with the rings. And
yes,
he
the Lincoln rings.
You more or less wrote the script for that?
Yes. Gosh, he's finally admitted it, has he?
He did to me.
He told us not to tell anyone.
But we have now.
Yes, yeah. It's a routine that he's done for many, many years. Gosh, I don't know, 25 years maybe, 25 years. Done on television, done all around the world, and has had enormous praise for it. But yeah, it was that show down in Newquay. He'd suggested to me, working there's certain tricks that are known as classics of magic, Lincoln rings being one of them. And I sort of started to, I developed the routine. After the 18 weeks, I went back to him. He was at the Prince of Wales Theatre at the time. Showed him how the routine had developed and what I'd done with it over the course of the summer. And he said, I like that. He said, do you mind if I do it? I said, no. And he put it in the show that night, and as I say, that was 30 years ago. And
did he pay you for your trouble?
No.
Oh, he still owes you then. So 30 years of doing your trick, he must owe you a few bob by now.
Yeah, well, over the years, I've been able to, when he had his warehouse, I've been able to dip in and borrow props and things like that. So
it all balances out.
We still do it today. Yeah, I mean, I'm working with a card trick with something called a Svengali deck, which is an old principle.
I saw his YouTube video of that. He did credit you on that.
Did he? I was going to say I came up with this thought of using the box to do it, to make it like a substitution trunk effect with playing cards, and then same thing. He come to me and said, I like that. Can I use it? I said, yeah.
So what are you doing now yourself? Have you got plans for more tours or by yourself or?
Yeah, just I'm working away. I do a lot of corporate events, which sadly are sort of don't get seen by the public, but I do a lot of those. I'm trying to get a documentary off the ground at the moment. That's my new baby.
About?
It combines my two passions, or three passions, if you like. It's magic, comedy, and motorbikes. The idea will be that Ross and I will travel around India on motorbikes, because motorbikes, cars and vans are too sterile. You can shut yourself into an air-conditioned 4x4 and go anywhere in the world. Whereas with motorbikes, you feel the air, you feel the temperature, you smell things. Because it's a vulnerable form of transport, you need people. It puts you more in contact with people. You're not whizzing by them behind glass. So the idea is that we ride around India on motorbikes in search of the Indian rope trick.
Wow!
So it's not a travel program where here we are at point A, and we have to make it to point B, and this is the story along the way. It will be like a treasure hunt, a quest.
A lot of research.
Most of it's done. Starting out to talk to people of Indian descent in this country who have, I remember a grandfather or a great uncle talking about this. I never saw it myself, and then off we go, and again follow the track. But along the way, obviously there would be a lot of comedy, a lot of fun involved, and also a lot of looking at the street magicians that are in India, and the mystics, the snake charmers, the fakirs, the bed of nails, and sadhus and things like that. Looking at the mystical side of the mystic.
They have a bit of a bad reputation, though, don't they, as a kind of scamming tourists rather than entertaining. Is that a fair statement? I
think that happens pretty much all over the world. Certainly in countries where money is scarce, you've got your scams, but they're usually things that like my dad covered in the bunko booth. The find the lady, find the pea under the shells, and that sort of thing. But most of the street magicians are literally that. The same as the buskers you get in Covent Garden, for example. They'll put on their show a couple of times a day. They'll have the snake charmers, and you pay for the privilege of watching and joining in.
Have you been to India before?
Only briefly. I went to Mumbai. It's like no place on earth that I've been to. I mean, I've been to my kids are always joking with me when they're coming home with their geography homework. Dad, have you been there? Yes. Have you been there? Yes. But India is completely different. I landed at the airport at about 11 o'clock at night, I think. So by the time I got through, it was pushing midnight, and the place was heaving outside the airport. Absolutely, I've never seen so many people in one place, and they're all, they're pushing and shoving, but if you had that scenario here, you'd think, oh my God, it's all going to kick off in a minute. There's going to be a big fight, or someone's going to get hurt or whatever. But it's not that. And I think again, I find it strange in India, in that I don't know whether it's Britain or Europe or what, but it's sort of, you have your personal space. It's a little sort of invisible ring around yourself, that if you're standing in a crowd, there's that sort of there's that gap around each person, and it seemed like when I was in India that didn't exist. Everybody was very close, and they're sort of huddled together, and that doesn't seem to matter. But people, everybody was walking in the road. I don't know what the traffic accidents are like there. Everybody was walking in the road, and I said to my driver, "Gosh, everybody's walking down the middle of the road here." And he said, "Well, that's because the pavement's everybody's sleeping." And they were literally, just like sardines. I mean, it was just lines, rows and rows of people, all sleeping. And then you get to your hotel. It's a bit weird, to be honest. I don't know how other word to describe it. I don't mean that to be disrespectful, because I then turn up and I shamefully checked in. It was booked in advance by the company that I was working for. You see, in this abject poverty, and then within 2 steps, I'm checking in to the best hotel I've ever stayed in my life anywhere in the world. And it's just the difference between, one side to the other is it's extreme.
I know exactly what you mean. I've seen that myself, and it definitely leaves a mark on you, I think. And I think it makes you appreciate your own country as well when you've seen something like that, because a lot of people moan about Britain and all the things that are wrong with it, but we do live in a very wealthy country in many respects. We are very, very
at least
lucky.
there's a bit of balance. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there are extremes, but predominantly it's the balance. You almost feel embarrassed to be, you know, you're looking out of the window of this luxury, super luxury hotel, and you are looking at abject poverty. And I think it's because the two extremes are so close together there, it literally just smacks you in the face. Anyway, that's the idea. You know, everything's done and ready and written. So it's trying to find a TV company now that you know, a few have said, "Oh, that's a very good idea. Oh, that's interesting." It's just crossing that final hurdle next, where somebody goes, "Right, let's put that out."
What about the possibility of getting it all produced independently and doing it that way rather? Because now you've got options open to you other than TV that you didn't really have years and years ago. Have you looked at that sort of avenue?
Well, yes, I met a man who I met him on a ship actually. He was riding a motorbike around the world. We'd become friends and been out on our bikes together and one thing and another. And quite unlikely, this guy he's about my age, mid to late 40s. He had a successful publishing business and sold it for a lot of money. And has become hugely wealthy. And there he was. He spent a year. He was spending a year riding his motorbike around the world. And we got chatting, and we talked about bikes and show business and things. And I said, "Oh, I've got this idea about going around India on the bikes." And he said just that. He said, "I'm looking for something to invest in. I'd be willing to." To put some money behind it to get it made. And he laughingly said, "But, you know, so long as I can come with you." He said, "I don't want to be in the program. I don't want to be filmed. I just want to ride my bike, you know, behind you guys, just for the fun and adventure and to see what you see."
Do it. Do that. That's
So,
your answer. Why don't you do that?
It may be that. Well, it's taken a couple of months out of work, and to take the chance, I suppose, isn't it? Unless I take a wage out of it as well while we're doing it, and then you sit on it. Maybe that is the way forward. I am meeting up with this said chappie in a couple of weeks' time to ride our bikes. So I might say to him, "Look, you know, nobody's bitten yet. How about we go independent, make it ourselves, and then take the finished product to the TV companies and say, 'They are. Do you want to show that for us?'"
That's the way to do it, I reckon.
Or just go straight to DVD.
Yeah,
That's true.
It's that's it now. There's the access to the technology now to make TV programs is so widespread that you can do stuff much cheaper than you could, say, 15 years ago. I mean, you know, the cameras that you need for broadcast,
Yeah.
everything's digital. It's changed everything. I think you should just do it independently. Just sack the TV companies off. They're all rubbish anyway. Just make a finished product and then go around all the TV stations saying, "Right, who wants this? Who's going to bid for it?" That's the way you should do
Yeah,
it.
that's the way I'll do it then. That's it.
That's it. Do it
I've got
that
to go
way.
now. I'm off to India.
Nick has spoken.
Nick has. Well, I'm serious though. You know, that's. I've lost all faith in TV stations and the people that run them. I just think they're useless because there's nothing good on television. It's getting to the point where people have to make the content themselves. You know, you look on YouTube and there are videos on YouTube of such a high standard. Do you know what I mean? It's getting to that level where there's a massive shift in where people are getting their entertainment content from. And the TV stations are just losing touch, I think. You know.
You're actually, the revolution starts here.
This is it, yeah. And someone like you with your background and your contacts, you could make it happen. You could start a new wave of doing things, you know?
Are you my dad putting a voice on?
No, I'm not. I'm just very passionate about this sort of stuff because that was my sort of area of interest when I went to university. But anyway, never mind about that.
How have you always been interested in bikes, or is this something quite new? Or
It goes back to Barry Sheen, I think, for me.
The Silver Dream Machine.
Back in the 70s, when he was. I don't think there's anybody. Back in the 70s, there was Barry Sheen, who was the world champion, but he was also, I suppose, what they call a crossover star now. Is that the term for it? Because apart from that, he was on television shows, he was doing TV commercials, and he was, posters and magazines. I think he did the old Splash It All Over. I think it was Barry Sheen and Henry Cooper that were doing the Brute aftershave adverts. And so, as a, 12, 13-year-old boy, here's this man who I either see him riding a big motorcycle or surrounded by beautiful, glamorous women. And I thought, that's for me.
Cool.
What
bike have you got?
At the moment, it's called the BMW. Well, we know that bit. It's a BMW R1100R.
Oh, that's a big one, isn't it?
You pretend you know about bikes.
That's the one I like. Yeah. I want to ask you about technology.
Right. I'm an expert.
What's your view on it?
On technology?
Do you love it?
Do I love it?
Do you love it? Do you love it, though?
No.
You don't love technology?
It's all a mystery.
So you're a technophobe?
No, I mean, I'm on Twitter.
I tweeted you this morning. Did you get my tweet?
You tweeted this morning, and I said I saw a picture of you with a CD.
Yes.
It's
working.
It's working.
Saying if you're looking pale, it's because
we're nervous.
You're nervous because you're getting ready to interview me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because we got the Kim Wilde album, and
yes.
we were having a listen to it. It's very good. You should get it. Have you
got a new album?
Yeah, she's got an album out. It's not a new, is it? It's
2011.
But it's brilliant. It's an album of cover versions. But anyway, we don't want to talk about Kim Wilde. I want to know, how did you get into Twitter if you're a technophobe? What do you do it on? Do you go on the computer, or have you got it on your phone? What?
I've got it on the laptop and on my phone.
And are you an Apple person or a Windows person?
A Windows person.
Windows, you see,
runs in the family.
Although having said that, I mean my computer's Windows, but I have got an iPhone.
Oh, so a bit of both.
So I'm an Apple window. Yes.
He's an Apple window. He's a Windle.
Yeah, a Wapple.
A Wapple.
A Whipple.
So you're not really big on technology then?
No, it's fine so long as it's working. And if somebody says to me, "This is what you do," and this is if you do that and do that and do that, that will work, and that's fine by me. Unfortunately, though, the minute you press buttons A, B, and C, and if it doesn't work, then I'm afraid I want to throw it out the window.
Now, your username is Martin Daniels 99 on Twitter, so that if people want to follow you, they can do that. Why Martin Daniels 99?
Did you try Martin Daniels 1, Martin Daniels 2? Did you just keep going until you found a free one?
I just tried with. I started with Martin Daniels, and then there was various. It says no, that one's taken, and there was various options to that come on offer.
Was it a suggestion? Was it from Twitter themselves?
I think so. It was sort of, do you want to choose from one of these? And so I thought, well, rather than random numbers, I thought, 99. That's all right.
It's a nice ice cream.
And so I picked that and thought, I'll tweet with a flake in it, and that'll be all right.
Now, if people want to hear you at the moment, you're always on the radio.
I am spasmodic at the moment. Because
that sounds painful.
Yeah, I used to do 5 days a week on a BBC station, and again, look at the draw. The BBC, certainly in radio and in a lot of things, had a major cull a couple of years ago. Every local station had to make massive financial cutbacks. There was redundancies and and such like across all the stations. Some of the radio stations were cut back so much that the regions had to join together. So 2 counties would, then joined up.
Was that so that they could afford to pay Jonathan Ross £6 million a year?
No, that was so they could afford to do this new everything's going digital.
Oh, that.
This project that they spent £100 million on and then went, hang on a minute, that's not working, is it? Right, we'll stop that.
Oh dear.
And so yeah, that was that. But I was on BBC Radio Lincolnshire for a couple of years, and again, as the only freelancer there, I was one that was easy to get rid of, despite the ratings. So now, just to sort of, I enjoy radio. I've got to be honest with you. Sort of to keep my my hand in, as it were. I do holiday cover. And sickness cover for people. I've got 4 stations near me. Radio BBC, they're all BBC ones. Radio Lincolnshire, Radio Sheffield, Radio Derby, and Radio Humberside.
We had James Whale on a few weeks ago, and you've been on his show. What was that like?
I've been on the James Whale, the TV show.
Yeah.
One that we did. I've been out a couple of times. I quite liked it. I've got to say, I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed meeting him. I thought it was. I didn't know. I could just try to think when it was. But at the time, I think he was doing talk radio, as it was called, when the TV show started, and he had this sort of reputation as the guy who was rude to people. He would tell them to sod off and hang up the phone and cut them off and all that sort of thing. And I was thinking, what's this guy going to be like? Of course, when you meet these people, totally charming, totally nice, totally professional, good at his job. And then the second time I think I went on, he invited me back on the show. Was something a little bit different. And they had one series where they got people on as you were the guest floor manager. And that being, you're the ones that you stand just off the camera with a normal floor manager would, and you've got the headphones on, and you are almost a link between the studio and the gallery. And so, but we did that with everything being on air. Me interrupting, saying, right, stop there. We need to go to a commercial break, right, hold it. That interview's gone far enough. We're running out of time. Do this. Ask that question there. There's a competition, and it was just loose and live. So I enjoyed the experience.
Brilliant.
Cool. Have you got any more questions for Martin, Rob?
No, I'm happy.
And nor have I, Martin. I think we've ran out of things to talk to you about. I don't know where else we can go.
We've been on for over an hour.
Do you know that we've been on the phone with you for almost an hour and a half?
I was going to say, I'm sure that I got a message saying, "Can we talk to you for 15 minutes?"
That was me.
Yeah,
that's how we lure people in.
Well, that's how it works. But
So I think no. I think we've. I would call that extensive, wouldn't you?
The thing is now that we've got to now edit this down to 15 minutes. That's the challenge.
Oh, is that what it? God, guys.
No. I'm just kidding. We'll have an extended podcast this week.
Oh, hey, nice. Well, I've enjoyed that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. It really has.
I'm going to go and tinker in the garage because that's what I like to do.
Well, keep us posted. We'll look out for updates on the documentary on Twitter. I'm gonna start following you on Twitter so I can see what's happening.
Right.
And
Are you not following me?
I am.
No, I'm not. I'm new to Twitter. I've only just started with Twitter recently, ago. So I'm still getting the hang of it.
Do you not understand the technology? Would you like me to explain it to you?
No, it's okay. It just took me a while to get into it. I'm only following 4 people at the moment. Martin, thank you very much.
All right, guys.
For your time.
Cheers now.
It's been a pleasure. Have a good day.
Ta-ra for now.
Bye-bye.
Cheers now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're listening to the Dead Air Podcast with Nick and Rob.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah, me too. It was a very interesting interview with a very interesting man. He took us in a lot of different directions, actually.
Some people just think that Martin Daniels is the son of Paul Daniels, but as we've just heard, there's loads more to Martin Daniels. Been on loads of shows, worked on loads of shows, tours all over the world. He's just amazing.
Indeed. And I felt that the interview was quite serious in some places as well. It was a bit of a deviation for us because we're usually just larking around and messing about.
You are listening to the Dead Air Podcast.
Have we got any news that we could squeeze in this bit?
The only bit of news I can think of to mention is that the Xbox people have changed their mind about you being able to give your games to your friends when you've finished playing them.
That'd be Microsoft then.
Yeah, Microsoft. They also make Windows 8. And Windows 8's new version came out this week as well, with the start button.
That doesn't exist.
It's a button. It's not a menu. There's a difference. So I'm waiting for Windows 8.2.
Has it actually come out, or is that just the preview version's come out?
Now I'm not sure. We've got it, so I just assume everyone else has got it as well.
Okay, it's the preview version then.
Okay. We get stuff before other people, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The rest of you will get that soon. But we're waiting for version 8.2, which I've heard is going to be called, okay, we're sorry, we admit it, we made a mistake, have your flipping menu back.
So, other news, we went to see Superman.
Oh, yes, of course, we were going to review The Man of Steel.
Yeah.
I think we should keep that for next week's podcast.
Okay.
Also, next week, we will be interviewing Henry Cavill, the actor who played Superman.
Really?
Well, I'm going to try and pull some strings this week and see if I can get us an interview.
It took me a few months to get Martin on the show.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll get Henry Cavill in a few days.
Okay.
He's not as big as Martin.
Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Facebook.
You can find the links to our Twitter and Facebook pages on our website, which is www.deadairwebsite.com.
Till next week, bye-bye.
You are listening to the Dead Air Podcast. For more information, go to www.deadairwebsite.com.
I've got a new kind of joke for you.
Okay.
It's a new knock-knock joke. You start.
Okay, knock knock.
Who's there?
Rob.
That's not how... I didn't think it was going to go that way. I've got a new kind of knock-knock joke. You start.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Henry.
It's not working. You're supposed to get confused and not know what to say.
Okay.
Do it to me.
Knock knock.
No.
I've got a new knock knock joke. You
Go on.
start.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
I don't know.
I don't know who.
You're rubbish at this part. I'm getting someone new next week.